my grandparents' place out on the back porch, and just wanted to talk about music and etc. and just kind of have a conversation. Tim, so here we are, like the passing of our grandfather, and we were talking earlier about he was a man who loved music and he played music, and I think that he was a big part in why we all play music. But do you have any stories or thoughts you might want to share on music, and maybe if it helped pull you into playing music?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess for me, I probably got into music through him indirectly through my dad as much as anything. I mean, from the earliest stages. So I remember when I was probably about 8 years old or so, my dad had this old mandolin. I think it was like a Harmony or something it was laminate, and it had probably 30-year-old strings. And so he got it out one day. He kept it in his closet usually, and I saw it, and he kind of let me plunk around on it a little bit, and I had no clue what I was doing, but he showed me how to tune it up, and then I was just I'd get it out and just basically bang on the strings a little bit. But I think that actually would have been, I think he got it from our grandfather originally.
I didn't know that.
Do you know that mandolin? It was like the A style.
Yeah.
With it was like the teardrop, and it was flat on both sides. It wasn't a carved top.
Yeah.
So that's probably the first instrument I remember playing, actually, was that one.
No, I remember that mandolin. I think I had it in my possession for a little while, and I kind of just gave up on it, and I don't know if I ended up like giving it to you guys, or
I don't know.
I don't remember.
I think it's at the house here, probably.
It probably
somewhere,
is.
In a closet or something.
Yeah, that's where I learned 3 chords on a mandolin.
Yeah.
But I never got past that. Well, yeah. I know for me, I remember learning a couple chords, and of course there was always guitars at the holidays. We'd get together, and there was always guitars laying around. I always going to get my hands on them. But I remember, a couple things. One, I remember I was about 12 years old, and I could have been younger than that, and I started to play and visited him in Tupelo when he lived there. And we were, I think Andrew was there, you may have been there, and on a Wednesday night, like for his church service, he asked us to get up and do a song, and like I got up and I played bass. And
was this your Mustang bass?
No, I was playing that. Well, it was actually the Music Master. It's the Mustang shape or whatever.
Okay.
I had that at the time, but he had like an old bass, like knockoff brand at the church, and I played on that, and I think Andrew played like a guitar, and anyways, that was my first time to ever play in front of people, and I really liked it. It kind of got a hold of me.
Yeah.
Another thing, a lot of people don't know this, but I've been periods in time where like I've played piano, and I learned a lot of how I play the piano from the way he plays, like because he would just chord and play like, so he would chord like in his right hand and play like the bass note in his left, and he might like make an octave. And that's kind of the extent of how I got into playing piano, just watching him and what he did, and it looked super simple, and so I kind of taught myself to play piano watching him play and hearing him play. And
But you don't rock like Ray Charles.
No, I don't. But my wife says that I am definitely too white for the kind of music that I like to play.
That's probably true.
Yeah. So she says I don't play piano like a white man.
Yeah.
So, but we are some white people.
That is true.
Hashtag white people.
Yes. I remember so my first introduction to guitar actually would have been, and I don't know, I guess this would have been family related, but not necessarily directly through our grandfather. So we had this old Gibson hanging around my house that was, I don't know, it was probably from the 50s or so. That was, And I think it was like a lower end Gibson.
Mhm.
Had this little sticker inside said only a Gibson is good enough, and it had like a couple cracks in the body, I think, and it had a bent tuner on it. But we just kept that guitar around the house when I was a kid, and so my dad, I think, had gotten it maybe from his uncle Hilton. I think
Yes.
was that when his uncle died.
Mhm.
Somehow it made its way to my dad, and so we had that. And my dad, when I was probably about 10, one day, I think I was actually homesick, and he was trying to keep me occupied because I was really bored, and he just handed me that guitar and showed me kind of how to strum. And he was like, here, just strum this thing. And so I just spent a good long while just banging on the thing, making awful noise. But that was my first time to actually play a guitar, at least a steel string guitar. I think my mom had an old nylon that had like 2 strings on it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so that was, then later I kind of got interested and went and bought a little Epiphone that I still have. But that was my first introduction to guitar.
Yeah, I remember that guitar. Yet again, like I had that in my possession for a little while.
I think we had a lot of like roaming family instruments.
We did. I had that. Oh, good grief! Probably about 8 years ago, I had that.
Yeah.
For a little while, and I tried to work on it, like getting the neck down. And
Yeah.
The neck was just shot in it.
Yeah.
And I think it actually went. It ended up going to Hilton's grandson.
Okay.
Who
Yeah.
lives down in Florida.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of glad to see it, like kind of go to where it needed to
Oh,
go.
totally. I'm pretty sure my dad took that to Grun's one time. We were up in Nashville. He took it and got it, looked at it, and they said, honestly, like, yeah, it's an old Gibson, but this was like a department store line. Essentially, it wasn't worth anything to,
Yeah.
other than for sentimental reasons.
Right. Yeah. It's too bad. It's like the guy with that does the vintage department store guitars out of
Baxendale?
yeah,
Out of Athens?
Baxendale out of Athens.
Yeah, yeah.
It's too bad there's not, like, at least back then there wasn't many guys doing what he's doing.
Right, right. He was, when I was in grad school in Athens at University of Georgia, and when I was finishing up grad school, I felt like he was just, I guess, ramping up there because I started hearing about him.
Oh,
but I wasn't
wow.
really enough into, I mean, I played guitar, but I wasn't enough into kind of the gear community to know what he was up to, and
Yeah.
and I don't think he was who he was in terms of reputation
Yeah.
these days. He just had a little shop on the edge of town where he worked on guitars.
Yeah. He's got quite the credential list from, what I've seen.
Yeah.
Now, let's see. There's a guitar, and I think it's going to be one that a lot of people are covetous of. There's a Silvertone laying around here somewhere.
Oh yeah.
And there's kind of a bit of a story behind that one. Have you ever heard anything about that?
I don't think so. I mean, I know the guitar. It's the
Okay.
black with the F holes.
With the white
and-
binding.
yeah, white binding, white pick guard. Awful action.
Yeah, it's terrible action. The story I've been told is that my grandmother gave that to him after years of him struggling to have a nice guitar to play. She gave that to him, and it was like one he just fell in love with, and he played it. And one of our older cousins, Jonathan, when he was a small child, did something, and it like cracked the neck or like bent the neck or something, and that's why it's got that horrible action on
Okay.
it. And they tried to kind of fix it, but never saw a luthier.
Does it even have a truss rod?
It may not. I don't know, that'd be interesting. That's one that, like, I would really love to see, like, maybe go to somebody
Oh, like Baxendale, yeah. That'd be cool. I mean, what he could do with it, but then also the stories behind it.
Yeah, and then I
Sentimental
think, like, every single one of us would fight over it.
Oh, totally. We get out the pitchforks.
So maybe it just needs to sit in a closet here for the next
Yeah.
decade or so. I don't know. Yeah, I had a guitar that I picked up recently here that I don't know what the arrangement was, but I had my first acoustic that somehow ended up in Paul Ball's possession, and
Is that the Samick?
Samick, and recently picked that back up, and of course it's hard for me to enjoy playing that guitar,
Yeah.
but it's kind of like one you don't want to get rid of.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, totally. I think you live streamed that a while back.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where I don't even know if I want to put a set of strings on it because I can't enjoy
Yeah.
playing it.
But I mentioned that Epiphone that I got, and it's like a mid-90s Epiphone laminate body, and it was my first guitar. I paid like $110 for it with a Fender gig bag, and I was probably in like 5th grade. But that's the thing I learned on for the longest time, and I still, for me, it's got, even though it's not by any means a high quality guitar, and the strings are like 5 or 6 years old now, but I write better on that thing than anything else because it's just it brings out something, yeah. So, hashtag Mojo. Nick View. This is your surrogate Mojo.
Yes. Yeah, that's the kind of thing. I think if there was Mojo, there's a lot of Mojo on those instruments.
Oh yeah.
There's this Quart acoustic in there.
Oh yeah.
That has a pretty decent sound.
It's
just a laminate guitar.
It's solid though.
Yeah, it needs new strings. Well, so you got a chance the other day. I busted out the Cower.
Yeah.
Let you try that. What did you think?
So, I really liked it. It's because it's a little bit more of like a jazz master style, which I've never bonded with.
Mm-hmm.
I found this one easier to play than a typical jazz master that I've picked up. Actually, the feel was incredibly easy to play, like compared to just about anything I've played. I felt like it was a very low effort guitar to play to get good sound out of it. Everything was very precise. I mean, for me, I feel like it would be overkill for what I do and what I need. But yeah, it was cool to actually get to touch and play a Cower.
Yeah.
That was neat.
Well, I was excited to, this terrible circumstances, but I was excited to let you be able to try that out because I knew you hadn't put your hands on.
Yeah.
That guitar to me, it's just kind of a unusual, but I like it. It's got a great neck on it, and I made a really interesting choice with the pickups.
Mm-hmm,
I decided to do like the Seth Lover's PAF style,
which sound great.
Which really surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think I've played that type of humbucker before.
Yeah.
And it's got like some twangy honk to it.
Oh, totally. Like, I mean, I think, people think humbuckers, even PAFs, I think sometimes have this reputation of being like really high output, and they're not at all. I know I recently got Nick Bongers at Great Lakes to make me some new humbuckers for my Les Paul.
Mm-hmm.
And because the ones I had were like super death metal ceramic, they were just muddy and loud and no articulation. So I wrote Nick and I told him, here's what I like to play. What would you recommend? And he was like, I'll make you some like Alnico 2 and Alnico 5, really low output, kind of vintage wind. And anyway, so I got those things and I was excited and I wired them up in my Les Paul and I started playing it. And I was like, man, this sounds like my Telly, And I would have seen like Telly and humbucker as opposite ends of the spectrum. But when you get a real PAF style, like the Seth Lovers or something in that vein, they're just really surprisingly articulate and clear, and they can twang with the best of them. And I feel like actually for like what you've got with the Arcturus though, one thing that's cool about having that double humbucker PAF type of setup is I feel like you really can cover the whole tonal spectrum. You can go from like telly twang to just absolute full out roar, and you can get those thick mid-rangey tones that you get with a humbucker.
Yeah, I think it's kind of something I just kind of stepped into. Probably the weirdest combination, because most people would have just put like jazz master pickups or whatever. But I really wanted a guitar that had PAFs.
Yeah.
And I'm happy. know, I think it's gonna be like a very like all-purpose guitar for me.
Yeah.
Where I might not have to haul, you know, 2 guitars around. Like I can just show up and play that one.
Totally. I mean, I think it's a super versatile setup.
Yeah.
And I could tell a very real and usable difference just using the 3-position switch too. You can get different tones, but they're all great tones.
Yeah.
And then you've got the, is that a mastery bridge?
Yes. Which is incredible. Like it stays so much, like it's so on the spot, like in tune.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I've tried out, like, you know, just jazz masters off the shelf in a music store, and I really love like the body shape and and the way they feel, but like there's always some kind of tuning issue with them, or like the strings are buzzing or popping out of the bridge. I mean, out of the nut. You know, it's just. It's like this one really helps.
Yeah.
It's like a super jazz master.
Well, and it was so, when I played with the trim, it was so smooth, and like there was no, so like, I'm not huge on tremolo, I rarely use it, but I've got my G&L Legacy, which has a trim, you know, Strat style trim. And you can tell, and I think the Legacy's smoother than most Fender Strats, but you can tell even with that, you've got like certain points that are easier and harder than others kind of to move, and you know, you've got the sweet spot and then the spots that are just kind of hard to do, and this thing was so effortless.
Yeah, it really, I've been finding myself using it a lot while I'm playing, which I'm not really a tremolo man at all.
Or tremolo, as some say. But not vibrato.
Right.
Although it is.
It is vibrato.
It is vibrato. What was Leo thinking?
I don't know, he confused us for...
He wasn't a guitarist, that was his problem.
Yeah, he set the precedent, and now it's like we're all confused and using terms that are the opposite of each other.
But he was a genius.
Yes.
Rest in peace, Leo Fender.
R.I.P. Leo Fender. Let me ask you this. We were talking about this earlier. We were talking about amplifiers.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'd heard 60 Cycle Hum say recently on an episode that they thought that it might get to the point where we don't use amplifiers anymore. And, you know, I was talking, like, with my cousin Andrew, who he went off to, I guess he went back inside.
Yeah.
But he was saying he didn't think that amplifiers would go away. Do you think amplifiers will go away?
If I had to guess, here's what I think. I certainly don't think they'll go away anytime soon. I mean, I think even for guys like our generation who grew up when amps were what you had. I mean, if you played guitar, you just had an amp. There was no Kemper. There was, you know, I mean, yeah, I guess you had maybe just the beginning of some multi-effect stuff like, you know, Zoom or Boss. But even then, I don't know about you, but like when I bought my first multi-effects, it was basically like a cheap way to get a pedal board. I wasn't thinking like run this direct as an amp sim, even though you could. So I mean, I feel like for me still, you know, I know about stuff like Kemper and Helix and that sort of stuff, and I think it's cool. I've not tried it personally, but I think the concept's cool, and the stuff I hear sounds really good. I think for me, though, it's just like baked into me that if you play an electric guitar, you play it through an amp. At least that's the default. So, like, for me, I don't see myself ever going ampless. Like, maybe in a certain context, I might do something without an amp. So, like, I mean, I'm probably going to be playing with my church this year, and I recently got a Vox, or not a Vox, I got a Joyo AC Tone, which is like a Vox in a box pedal, and I wanted it mainly to run into my Mesa because I wanted the option to make it sound more like a Vox, but I'd read good reviews that it could be a good standalone amp replacement or a backup, and so it's kind of like, well, if I ended up needing a Vox type tone, I could just throw this in my bag and bring it and not have to lug an amp if that wasn't conducive to their setup. So I could see in a setting like that, maybe. I even tried it recording into GarageBand, and it sounded awesome. But that said, I mean, for me, you know, so if we're prognosticating outward, like, I feel like my I don't know. I don't want to speak for other people, Michael Newland, but I feel like me, in terms of kind of where I got locked in to my gear mentality generationally, I just take an amp as a part of the territory. Now, I don't know, like, you know, younger folks who are coming up, and I'm saying younger, I'm 34, but, you know, like the kids behind us who are starting to come up. Yes, the Spencer Hyams and the Nathaniels of the world, who are not like us old men. I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see as they come up maybe in more of a kind of gear ecosystem where it's more common not to run through an amp. You might see more of a shift there. I don't know. What's your take?
Well, I was getting close to maybe pulling a direct option, and you know, I did an A/B test the other day.
Mm-hmm.
This is off the subject, but I did an A/B test the other day between my the GarageBand. I was playing the amps on there, and I compared like a Blackface with a 10-inch speaker, which is basically the Princeton. A/B'd it with my Princeton. And it was very close. To where like I would bring people like at the office in and just say, hey, which do you think I'm playing through? And they couldn't tell. But
were you like running through studio monitors?
Yeah, I was running through the PA.
Okay,
both of them, and I had them at the same volume.
Yeah.
However, so I went ahead and I rehearsed, did like a band rehearsal with it, and it was good. But then I realized towards the end of rehearsal, I was getting quite the digital artifacts, like interference with. And I could almost trace it. It was like in the USB cable.
Okay,
Go into my computer, and I would wiggle it around, it'd stop, or I would like pull my cell phone away from it, it'd stop. But I was realizing like I was getting interference, and I was like, first of all, that's super noisy. I can't deal with that. That's gonna drive me bonkers while I'm playing. And I think the other thing was like, I had to make sure that that my Mac was like open and the screen was on, engaged and everything. It's like, this is very problematic. For a studio solution, if I'm going to do a demo, yes, I would do it. But like playing live with it, I just don't think I could do that. And then here's the other thing, is I realized that like if I put my Princeton on 2 or 3, like it sounded the same, but it did not get the breaking up a little bit sound. It didn't nail it.
You're talking about the GarageBand Sims?
Yeah, GarageBand Sims could not nail the breakup sound.
See, that's my thing. Like I just have this sense that I would lose something in terms of the feel and the picking attack and all.
Yeah, and so I think if you're you want like just a clean Princeton sound, like, and you're gonna add pedals on top of that, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you're not getting that sound of that amp, like putting it to its paces.
Yeah.
And so
now, I mean, on the flip side though, like you had Chris Sly come in, and he ran everything through digital.
Yeah, and it sounded fun.
It seemed like it was a good setup for what he needed to do.
Exactly, and I think it's all about the tools you need to get the job done. Like, he did that because he, was using a fly rig.
Right.
Couldn't bring an amp with him. But, like, I think if it comes down to it, like, no, I'm not kicking my amps to the side to do that. Like, if I have to, like, I'll get some kind of attenuator or something. I love the sound of an amp in a room too much.
Yeah.
So, now I wanted to note something. Have you seen, you're going to talk about some stuff here in the Tim Worley show group. Josh Fraser has this buffalo. Have you seen him post any of that about?
I just saw him write something about a buffalo. I have not seen anything.
Okay.
I don't even know what the buffalo is.
So
honestly.
he got a buffalo, which is like an amp sim. It's kind of like a EQ pedal that has like a speaker simulator in it.
Okay.
And he got one and was telling us about it. It was pretty cheap. I think it's like $60 or something like that. And so it's kind of cheap. And he was saying, it really did the job for him.
Does it do amp voicings, or is it just a cab sim?
No, it's basically a cab sim with a parametric EQ on it.
Oh, okay.
And so...
But does he just run direct through it?
Yeah, he's running direct with all his pedals.
Okay.
And so he likes that, but I think like his approach to playing is a little different. Like, and I'm trying to speak for Josh, but in the conversation he was saying that he kind of uses his pedals to play rather than his amp.
Yeah.
And so Michael Newman went and got one, and he was trying it out. Now Michael says the amplifier box, and he was doing a demo, and that Buffalo sounded really good when he took his. I think he has like the Super Bowl, the JHS Super Bowl, and he was playing. Which is like
that's a Supro
amp in a box.
Okay, yeah.
I
want to get one of those.
Yeah,
badly.
And it sounded very decent. Like when he used that into the Buffalo, but by itself it sounded kind of sterile. It was just it didn't behave like an amp to me.
The Super Bowl run direct?
The Buffalo by itself.
Oh, I see. But when you ran the Super Bowl into the Buffalo, it made it more amp-like.
Yeah, it's almost like you need like a preamp style pedal. So it was very interesting. But then, so I was like, okay, well that's not bad. Nomad would do that. And then he played like the amplifier, and like I was like, oh my goodness, like that sounded so much better and so much more versatile. Like I was like, I could see the merit, and it's like an impulse response. Like you can load different impulse responses into this. It has like presets of different kind of amps you can use, and then it's got like internal effects.
Oh wow!
And it's a pretty expensive pedal. I think it's like I can't remember.
Is it like about $300 or $400?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's pretty good. It's a pretty good tool.
Yeah.
But I think that I'm gonna save my money up and get a good attenuator for my Princeton. I think that's where I may go.
What are you looking at in terms of an attenuator? What options?
Well, I'm looking at the Two Notes Captor. There's several products that Two Notes makes. One is like it's like a everything, like all the bells and whistles unit, and then they have one that's like just like an amp sim. Speaker sim. Pedal, and it has like all kind of things you can dial in, and I think this is about $500. Or you can get the Captor, which is basically like it does three things, and you can use this like in different ways. So like I could take my Princeton and could use as a load box to go out from a speaker out into that, put a load on it so I don't fry my amp, and then go like direct to the front of house. So like I'm using my Princeton basically as
using your Princeton's preamp.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
So I could use that, like use it that way, or I could put it in the back and attenuate it to like down to where like it's quiet, and I could get the preamp really cooking.
Okay, and then crank the power tubes.
Yeah.
To get more of that broken out. Yeah. How does that work? Is it like a wattage? Is it stepping down the wattage? Are simulating? Or is it
I think it attenuates it by like 20 dB.
Okay, yeah.
So like you could just really bring the volume on down.
Yeah.
And it keeps your amp from frying. Or and this is why like it does three things and it all can do them well. It has like one speaker cab sim in it. So like I could just like plug my pedals into that. Like if I didn't want to bring my amp and use that as like a speaker sim.
Oh wow.
And then so I could like use like I've got an amp in a box pedal.
Yeah.
The Twin 12.
Yeah.
And I could do that like as a backup.
Yeah.
And so it's like I think it's like $150, $160 pedal.
I need to look into one of those.
Yeah. It's not a pedal, it's the attenuator load box. But I was like, that may be the ticket for me. Like I don't want to give up playing with amps.
Yeah.
And it's like it does all those things, and I could go direct if I wanted to. So
I've been looking at some attenuators, and that's cheaper than even like the cheap attenuators I've seen that are running like $200 or $300.
Yeah, I don't know how it can run that. Maybe no, I'm wrong. I think that's a $250.
Okay, that's still not bad though
for
an attenuator that can then do all that other stuff.
Yeah, and then I had looked at the Palmer. Palmer has like a thing that you can even mount it in the back of your amplifier. And basically what it does, I don't remember the name of it, it looks like a direct box, but you take your speaker out and you go to it, and then it's like a direct box that has the in and out, like in the front, and then like, so like you could go into it, and then the out goes back out to your speaker.
Yeah.
So it's technically putting a load on your amp, but then instead of miking your amp, it's got like a you plug in the XLR and go directly in, so it's like a direct option for your amp instead of miking it, and apparently you can get some really good tones out of it.
Interesting.
But that's 150.
Okay.
And so I don't know. I would love to try some of this gear.
Yeah. See, I feel like I've been on this constant amp question mark for the last year or so, because I've got my Mesa Subway Rocket that I really like.
Yeah.
But to try to crank it like I want to do, I mean, it's like 18 or 20 watts, and it just would absolutely blow your ears off. And, I'd get the cops called on me. So but I've lately been trying to find a way to actually crank it more. So, I mean, I've been playing like with my volume on my volume knob, and trying stuff like that, which kind of gets you there. And I'm finding, you actually do get different and I think better tones with the power tubes cranked, but still it's a hassle to try to do that. So if I could have something that would actually let me open the amp up and still do it at a decent volume, I'd totally be all over that.
That could be a deep rabbit trail, because you could get like the is it the, who makes the aux? Is it Apollo? Those are pretty expensive.
Oh, I don't know.
It's like, I saw a lot of those at NAMM, like at the demo booths where people had amps and they could attenuate their amp.
Yeah.
And that's like $1,000 unit,
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's doing a really great job. That's just kind of like, that's the price of an amp.
Yeah.
Again,
that would be more than my amp.
Yeah.
That'd be like twice the price of my amp. It's not worth it.
That's just really trying hard not to keep from using your amps, in my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, you talking about your amp journey?
Yeah.
You had played a Silvertone recently? What did you think about that?
So the story is, there's this local shop. So I live in State College, Pennsylvania, and there's this neat little shop there. It's called Alley Cat Music, and the guy who runs it is like a fixture in the local music community. He's just an awesome guy, and it's really close to my office. It's way too close for my own good, so I can walk down there, during lunch or whatever. And so I was downtown doing some work at a coffee shop, and I knew Alley Cat was just around the corner, and I kind of needed an excuse to go in there and just look. It's this tiny place. It's in about a probably 20 by 20 room. It's just tiny, literally in an alley. And so I went in there, and my Les Paul I need to probably get a good setup on it, but somehow I had these scratches show up on my frets. I don't know. I think my kids banged it with my slide, but made all these little divots and scratches. So anyway, I went in and I was just going to ask Mark, the owner, hey, how much would it be to give this a little fret cleanup? And so I stood there and talked with him for a little bit. And my wife and I had been out to this restaurant a few nights before where they'd had an open mic night, and not even open mic, his band was playing, and he's in kind of a little local blues band, and he had this amp. So he's got Mark Ross, the guy who runs the shop, has a line of guitars and amps he's just put out. It's called somebody's car is going off.
I don't know if it's mine. I think it's their next door neighbors. Don't they know we're doing a podcast?
For real. They heard us. So anyway, Mark, who runs the shop, has this line of guitars and amps he's just come out with called Pentone. They're all designed in Pennsylvania. They're really cool, but so anyway, I was in there and I was asking him a little bit about the amp, because I'd seen him playing one of his Pentone amps at the restaurant the other night, and so I was asking him about it and what it did, and so he was telling me it was about like a 15 watt, I think like 6V6 or 6L6 amp, and it sounded awesome. And now the things go for like $1,500. They're handmade. I mean, like beautiful, hand polished cabinets and all. And so anyway, I told him, I was like, probably not in the market for anything like that, but I've got this Mesa Subway Rocket that's, I think it's a really good, solid, versatile amp, but it's just really loud for home playing because I don't gig or anything. And so he's like, well, let me show you something that you could crank a little bit more. And so he took me over, and there was this old 60s Silvertone, I think it's the 1482, which is kind of one of their classics. They had, like, the 1484 is the Twin 12. Okay. And then the 1482 is like a, I think it's a 10-inch speaker version. It's just like 110, yeah. And I mean, it's made from like it's not even particle board. It's like compressed cardboard.
Almost like Masonite.
yeah. It may be Masonite or something like that. It's awful, quality. And I've been told, like, if your house is too humid, it'll disintegrate on you.
Oh my goodness.
But anyway, so he's like, just listen to this. So I grab a guitar off the wall and plug in. And of course, it's just total master volume amp. And so he turns it up to about 3 or 4. And this thing is just like going into full-on breakup just with picking dynamics. But it was so cool because it was so dynamic. I could just back off my attack slightly, and it's these really great cleans, and then dig in a little bit, and it goes into like this raunchy but like beautifully raunchy breakup. Mm-hmm. And so it would have been, I forget what he was asking for, but it basically would have been about an even swap with my Subway Rocket. And so and it had this amazing tremolo too. Best tremolo I've ever heard on an amp. And it's made so that, because it was originally designed to be like an all-in-one gig amp, so you could run, I think it's either 1 or 2 guitar inputs, and then it also has a vocal mic input. Okay. So, but what you can do, a lot of people will do this hack, is you can jumper between the guitar input and the mic input, and basically what it does is like adding a second preamp stage. Yeah. So you can drive it harder. Okay. And get a little bit faster breakup and just a little bit different tone from it. So a lot of people will run it that way. But yeah, I went home and started, researching these things and found out how awesome they are. But at the end of the day, I kind of decided, as cool as it was, it probably would be a little bit of a one-trick pony for me.
To me, that's kind of like taking your like good daily commuter car that runs reliable, and going and getting like a sports car that may or may not start having some problems soon.
Yeah, it would be like taking a really solid modern family sedan and trading it in for a 68 Camaro. It's awesome, but it's gonna take some constant work, and stuff's gonna break on it.
Guitar Rock is dead.
Guitar Rock is dead.
Says Keith.
EDM for life, baby. EDM for life.
That's interesting you say that, because that may be what happens. We were talking about, do you think guitar amps are going to die?
No.
Why do you think that?
Because they sound better. Will they be as ubiquitous as they are now? Maybe not. But you have to define dead. Is chrome on cars dead? No. Yeah. Is it ubiquitous? No.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's dead.
Yeah. We were talking about, he was talking about trading his Mesa Boogie Subway Rocket for a Silvertone 1482, which is like their 1x10 amplifier. And he said, you were talking about how like it sounded so good.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, like it's kind of like taking your family sedan that's reliable, or your daily commuter car, and like trading it for like a old beat up like sports car or something.
I don't think it really matters what sound you get if you convey your point easily.
Well, that's true.
But guitar amps sound better than Kempers.
Yeah. Do you think like a reliable amp is like, you can take like this amp is reliable, it's gonna be built well, versus like one that is kind of quirky? Would you take it live with you if it was quirky?
If it did what I was trying to say.
So I guess it's gonna convey a point.
And if it didn't, and if it messed up sometimes, I would just tell the audience, like, sorry, my life's messy, and so are my songs, and so is this amp.
Well, they just kick this amp a few times and make it behave.
We'll just do something different instead tonight. Deal with it.
It's an acoustic show.
Deal with it. Yeah, I don't know.
Here's Andrew on the
I've
kazoo.
never been a big Jack White fan, but I like that he says he'll purposely play guitars that are hard to play and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Fight you.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
he get something out of that.
Yeah.
Well, like, you're a Telecaster man. Do you think Telecasters kind of fight you a little bit?
No, I like that they're easy to play. I'm an easy man.
So like, what would be like your fight guitar? That you would...
Me, Firebird. That neck feels so weird. Feels like I'm right-handed. My left hand feels like it's like in Nebraska. While my hip feels like it's in New York.
Like you're Elastoman or something?
Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't really work for me, but they're damn sexy. However, the Explorer doesn't feel the same way. Explorer feels much more normal.
Yeah, except when you sit down.
Yeah. But who's going to sit down with an Explorer?
You're not. If you do, something is really wrong with you.
Yeah. That's like wearing cargo pants on stage. Let's say you got like a plexi. You got a late 60s plexi. Full stack, 2 4x12s, nothing but Celestian like greenbacks in them or something. And
Have you been looking at the Dads of Rock Instagram
and you got like
page
a
or something?
1959. You got like a 1959 Les Paul, and you're wearing like flip flops and khakis. Like
Yeah.
that's the equivalent of sitting down playing with an Explorer
Exactly.
in front of people.
Exactly, but I'm sure there is some dude out there somewhere, like, I don't know, Knoxville, Tennessee, doing that maybe.
There's a bad dude everywhere.
Yeah.
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 That dude is the one that can probably afford all the stuff we just talked about.
And isn't
Not
that
the guys actually playing. It's all
yeah,
that's the doctors and lawyers and professors that can afford the kid.
Oh, the professors. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to get some of that professor salary.
the blues
Let me do
rocker?
that.
Well, we know a blues lawyer or two.
Blues lawyer? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They keep companies, all the companies besides Gibson in business.
Yes. Well,
You gotta get every shot in.
Talking
Every
about-
bankruptcy shot in.
Yeah.
talking about
I think
Gibson.
Joe Bonamassa keeps them in business.
What's your favorite guitar meme you've seen in a long time? I love all the memes making fun of bass players personally.
That's funny. Good grief.
I think my favorite though is John Mayer with the new silver whatever Strat, like
Yeah.
the DRS one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it says your body is another brand. So your body is. I thought that was the best one I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's good.
Talking about him, he caught some flack recently.
No.
Yeah, always catching flack. But he was saying that he doesn't record with amplifiers anymore.
Probably not. A lot of
He
people
takes his
don't.
guitar and he records it into something that just like takes it so like he can give it to the producer to like reamp it.
I can see that.
Yeah.
A lot of people do that.
So then, do they run the dry signal into an actual amp?
Yeah, like he'll
Yeah.
record like just a dry signal, so like he'll give it to the producer like in that format, and then like they run it through whatever amp or digital ampware that they want to. And
Yeah, so he's going D A D.
Dad rock.
No, he's going A D A D. He's going analog from the guitar
the digital,
to the digital wave file that he's recording on, most likely,
and then back to analog,
and then back to analog,
and back to digital.
and then back to digital. Unless there's like going from tape then to hard.
There we go. That's called a dad rock.
That would be A D A A D if he had recording on tape. for
That's
that.
one off from Dadgad.
Yeah.
Well, any thoughts on the new 2019 Gibson line? Have you seen those?
No.
Don't
I
care.
mean, I've seen pictures of them, but they look like Gibson guitars that I've seen for the past 60 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I glanced at it the other day, and I was expecting, to see something different or unique, and I was like, okay, these are Gibsons.
Gibson
saw
always
a
does this,
hideous
like,
one, though.
check out this new, like, the 2020 Les Paul series, and it's like, it's the same guitar you've seen a million times, but there just happens to be a new finish. Or
Yeah.
or it's like, this one has a new quilted type of top or something. It's like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
No. However, the Fender Parallel Universe or all those
Yes.
things were
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
But they're freaking expensive. They're all $2,000.
Yeah.
I
Are
want
they really?
the Jaguar Strat.
Who was?
That one looks cool.
I was listening to somebody recently. They were saying though that some of the online retailers have been blowing those things out dirt cheap.
Really?
Because
I don't
apparently
think
they're not
selling.
selling.
I don't think they are selling.
No.
I haven't seen anybody with them.
No.
But hopefully, what
they've not been
happens
out
is
long, but
hopefully they drop to like $1,000 in a year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that
Because I do want the Jaguar strap.
It seems to be like Fender in the last 2 or 3 years. Like whatever they come out with at NAMM that year, like within a year, it's gone out of their lineup, and like it's all like hitting the used market. Like, and they're good cult hits. Like people want them, but they don't want to pay. Like for instance, like the Bass Breaker series amps.
Yeah.
Kind of a cool thing they did, but
Cool,
like
but with lots of cheap parts on them.
yeah,
That's the thing. It's like, yeah, it's awesome. They got these cool little amps that are like, powered by EL84s, and you think, and they look kind of cool. But then you look at the back, and they have all these like plastic parts all over them and everything, and you're just like, why would I get that over a Blues Junior? Like, if you know anything about amplifiers, you're like, this is just Blues Juniors is like an actual real version of the things they're basically mocking with the Bass Breaker.
And it doesn't seem to fit in their lineup. Like why would you have this and the Blues Junior and the Pro? Which I think the Blues Junior and the Pro are amazing amps.
The Pro's a great recording amp, specifically.
Yeah.
Pro or the Champ, fantastic recording amp.
And they're in the same price point. So I'm kind of like, why? There's a lot of confusion. Like, why are you making these choices?
Isn't the Bass Breaker supposed to allow you to kind of get into some Marshall-ish territory?
Yeah, it's basically like it's taking like British power amps and pairing them with Fender like voiced preamps.
Yeah, I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's EL84,
Literally
but
or physically.
Yeah.
I'm not buying it.
So-
But their guitars are different. The reason they're the king of guitars now is because they knock it out at every single price point.
yeah.
They nail every single price point they have. They make a quality instrument even the bottom of the barrel Squires for the money. You're going to tell me you're going to get a better $150 guitar than that?
Oh, yeah.
No. That is the best $150. Same with like, you go to the high-end Squires, that's the best thing guitar you're going to get for that money. You go to the Mexican Strats, you go to, I don't know, the sort of cheaper American Strats, all the way to the top of the line.
Totally.
The top lines are overpriced, but like, my thing with them is that it's just a thing, a preferential taste for somebody who plays a lot live. Is like, I don't even own a Gibson guitar anymore, but like, I just think the bolt-on neck is a superior neck as far as staying in tune
I agree.
than a glued-on neck.
Totally agree.
I think a glued-on neck is like a thing of the past. I think that is something that could and should die. It's great for an acoustic guitar. An electric guitar that you're playing night after night, it's getting thrown in a case, out of the case, in the case, out of the case, in the case, out of the case. Temperature issues. That's the other one. All the different temperature issues. Like, no, man, I can pull out my Telecasters and they pretty much stay in tune always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't Collings make basic? Don't they use bolt-on necks? They're like Gibson
They're
style guitars. They're
Les Paul
electrics.
Junior style and stuff.
Yeah. They're like, and they're 335 style and stuff.
Yeah.
I think they bolt on their necks, don't they?
I think they do.
Yeah. So you're basically making a Gibson, a superior Gibson,
Yeah.
which is why they're $4,000 and $5,000 guitars, which again is stupid.
Yeah.
Which is also why Gibson went bankrupt too. Part of it. They also own too many brands. They just bought too many brands.
Yeah.
That were
Yeah.
selling. But
Well,
also their guitars shouldn't
With
be
Henry,
as expensive as they are.
gone, do you think they'll turn a corner? I think I had hope that they would, but then like when I saw some of the marketing in the last few weeks, I'm kind of no, you're trying to still sell me the same thing.
If they go out of business, it'll be something like, I'm trying to think of a modern example. It'll be something like Indian motorcycles, or even when like Harley Davidson basically like went through their lull, where like they'll go away but they'll come back.
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
somebody will yearn for what they were.
Yeah.
Somebody will,
They're going to produce the new bike in like Indonesia or something. It's not even going to be American made.
because they can't
Which
afford
is-
to make it in America.
Which is what Harley's built on, though. The
Yeah.
only reason why outlaw
Well, this is
bikers
like I
stand
think
behind
Gibson. You may see it start being made in Asia eventually.
But
I
that's
don't think
not their
people would go for
problem.
that, though.
That's not their problem. Their,
Yeah, their problem is not their guitars.
Their problem
primarily.
isn't. Yes, the labor would be cheaper there, but their problem isn't a labor problem. The problem is the amount. They need to trim the fat.
Totally.
Yeah.
They are a gargantuan company that owns way too many brands that are unprofitable within the music industry that have nothing to do with guitars. They own
Yeah.
way too many brands. They need to trim the fat, get back to what you were good at doing. You know, Gibson could exist with 4 guitars.
Oh yeah, totally.
Gibson could exist with like the SG, the Les Paul, the 335. They could exist with those alone. You could add a few more in there, but they could exist with
Yeah.
just those.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And they could, because now they'll have like,
and then maybe they could sell them for cheaper too.
Right, exactly. And right now, if you want to get like a Les Paul, it's like which of the 15 production line models? Why not have a Les Paul or two, and then you can,
Keep
if
your
you want to go
custom
custom
shop.
shop, exactly. That's what I'm saying. If you want additions or mods or whatever, there's a custom shop for that.
There's
Your
too many
custom
blues
shop.
loggers who wants a different Les Paul with a different colored top
Guess what?
for
They're
Christmas
everywhere,
every
all
year.
over Reverb. They're
Yeah.
all over Reverb. Go
It's
get
also
one.
called aftermarket pickups. It's called, you
Yeah.
know, aftermarket whatever.
So,
Yeah.
well, I played the brand new lineup at NAMM, and I had
Mhm.
fun playing them. But then when I came home, and now like the 2019 lineup has come up, like they had a hideous J45. It was a J45 special, and it had a purple top, like purple burst. It looked like something that Epiphone would have made in the 1990s. Like
Or still makes.
or still.
That's
and
another problem with Gibson. They don't have a good budget line. The good Epiphones aren't budget guitars. They're expensive guitars.
yes,
Mhm.
They're not
Yeah.
cheap. Like
Yeah.
the master builds aren't cheap anymore. When they
Yeah.
came out, they were cheap. And then like a John Lennon Casino is you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
don't even know
Yeah.
if Gibson's making. I mean, if the Epiphone technically plan is making that, if that's the Gibson plan.
Well,
But still,
Epiphone
they
is
don't
making
have
good guitars, but you're right. The price points are not great.
But here's my thing, because I've spent a
No
lot of
one
time.
wants an Epiphone Les Paul.
Exactly.
People want Mexican-made Telecasters,
Exactly.
and Stratocasters.
Lately, I went on this kick because I was really thinking about getting a Titan for a while, and I knew to do that I'd have to unload one or two of my guitars. So I was like, well, if I sold the Les Paul,
Yeah,
my Gibson Les Paul Classic, I could probably
get an
get it,
Epiphone.
get a Titan, and get an Epiphone Les Paul.
Uh huh.
And so I
But why would you want an Epiphone
exactly
Les Paul?
I played a ton of Epiphone Les Pauls, even the like not the super high end like Elitist, but like the Tribute Plus and that kind of stuff. And I was just like, okay, if I had not played a Gibson, this is a decent guitar.
I'd rather
but
play
then
a
I go home to my
$200 Squire than an
I would
Epiphone
too.
Les
That's the
Paul.
thing. I feel like for Fender with their Squires and Mexican, line, it's like you pick that up and you're like, this is a really good guitar that I could just play. Yeah, if I wanted to get the American, that's nice, but this is a good guitar at the price. And the Epiphone to Gibson difference, you feel a huge difference in the quality and
Sound.
the sound. Yeah, but even for me, it's not just the sound. I mean, I was like, well, should I just get some good pickups for an Epiphone? And you compare the playability.
No, you're gonna
It's
have
just
to. You're gonna
totally
have to spend $200-300 in that, sinking it into that Epiphone to make it even remotely in fit and finish to playability like a off the line Gibson.
But see, I don't think that even gets you there. I think you could get there. I think
I'd
you
have
get
been
close
impressed with
time
the
wise, but
off-the-line Gibsons in 10
No,
years.
no, not the.
I owned a 97 Les Paul, and it got stolen from me, and then I ended up getting people from my church bought me a 2008 Les Paul, same model, Les Paul Classics,
yeah,
which I don't think they even make the Classics anymore.
they do, but it's different. It's got like push-pull stuff and
Well, hey, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But Les Paul Classic, man, the difference was like,
Night and day.
particularly in the pickups, and they were the same, supposedly the same.
Were they the
pickups.
496 500T like
I
ceramic
don't
ones?
remember. They were definitely
Yeah.
the uncovered ones, both
Yeah.
of them. But man, didn't feel as good. Didn't sound as good.
So what you're saying is in the 90s they were on it.
See, I've got a 99.
That late '90s Les Paul was. It sounded like, to me, like the same sound, especially because I had an orange. Well, I had one of the first oranges in America when they did the reboot, because there was a distributor in Atlanta where I lived. I walked in to buy an AC30, and he was like, "Well, you should check out this 30-watt, orange." This was this is before the rockets and all that stuff. This was just like Vox had the AC30.
Yeah.
This was called an AD30, single channel amp, just 30 watts of just great EL84, pure British power, big old fat rectifier tube in the rectifier section. Played one chord and I was like, done. But that late
Yeah.
90s Les Paul for that orange sounded like Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounded just like that 2008 one. Nope, it sounded muddy and muffled.
Yeah.
Very low mid.
And see, I think there was something with the classics in particular, because I was shopping in like 2000, 99 or 2000 for a Les Paul. And I played a bunch of them in the stores, and the classic that I ended up walking away with blew away any of the standards that I played. It just, I was underwhelmed by
I
all the
always like the
standards.
classics more than the standards too.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, I think the
They're-
standards are better now than
For
classics.
the current stuff, yeah. But the neck profile is different too. It's got that
Yeah.
60s style, which I love.
Well, here's my thought, and I'd have to look this up and reference this, but like, would a 90s classic Les Paul been like a hand-wired circuit inside, and
I
now
don't
like
know,
they went
man.
to like the PCB board?
All I can
inside?
tell you is my experience.
You're talking about,
I don't
they have
know.
a PCB
They
inside
have a
the Les Paul
PCB
classics?
board inside for their control panel.
Oh, see, now I just had mine
See, I
open.
don't want any guitar that has that.
Yeah, see, I had
That's
mine.
what they do.
I
had-
don't want any. No wonder they sound like crap now.
Yeah, I had
don't
my
want
Les
a
Paul
PCB.
open.
No, most of us don't even want a PCB in our amps, even though we all settle for it because it's just so commonplace now.
Yeah,
But like, in a guitar too?
yeah.
No.
See, in the
I expect to see like a potentiometer and like a
Right.
few
No,
wires.
that's
and
not what you get.
Oh,
I
my
want
goodness.
a potentiometer and some wires and a magnet with some coils wrapped around
Yeah.
it. And that's all I want to see.
No.
See, I opened up my 99 a couple months ago when I installed my new pickups, and it was like you had a few pots and some wires, and that was it.
That's
Yeah.
all you're supposed to see.
Exactly.
Well,
I
that's
didn't know
why
they did PCB.
They need to contact Sean Arbo and rip all that junk out of
That's
their Les
right.
Pauls and
How
contact
hard
Gun
is it?
Street
Is it-
Wiring.
Are they really saving that much money by doing that?
They're 7 man-hours by popping them things in, and
See, I think it depends on what you're
Okay,
doing.
well here's
though,
the deal.
but-
Guess what? I don't care if you make it in America. Then send it somewhere else that has good skilled labor that can. I don't care. And how skilled do you have to be to do the wiring on the inside of a guitar? Not that
Not.
skilled at all.
I think especially on a Les Paul, it's
You know
very
what?
simple.
You know what? Blunt, the guy I play music
Yeah.
with, always made. And I don't think this joke will sound racial or not. It's not even a joke, really. He just always used to say this. He said, "You know why? Mexican fenders sound really good." He's like, the plants are like 50 miles from each other. He's like, who do you want? The same person making your guitar in America, or the same person making your guitar in Mexico for
Yeah.
just a little bit cheaper?
So, yeah, you can
He's
say
like,
that-
it's the same labor.
Gabriel Tenorio says that, so you can say
yeah,
it.
it's not white people.
That's right.
It's the same labor.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's all good labor.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's good labor.
Yes.
Yeah.
American, you don't have to be white from America to make a good guitar.
Nope.
No. I agree.
Not to mention the
I
stuff they're
agree.
turning out of China and Indonesia.
Or to
places
work
like that.
hard in any
Exactly.
field, for that matter, just for the record.
Yeah. Well, I think we covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just wanted to kind of get some conversation going, talking about the music that inspired us, and how his legacy inspired us. And then we got to talking about a lot of gear after that.
Yeah.
So, well, anyways, we'll talk to you next time.